welcome to Talisman Tarot. In this reading I will be describing who you are as a person. And so this will be group number 1, this will be group number 2, this will be group number 3, this will be group number 4, this will be group number 5, and this will be group number 6. So I will ask you to use your intuition to choose whatever pile comes to mind, whatever pile speaks to you, and that will be your group. And so let's get on with the reading. So group number 1, you chose this ametrine, and so I will start by channeling a message and then I will proceed to the cards. But so I see that you are a very creative person. You might be a student. You might also enjoy traveling a lot. You might be a Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn, or even Libra. You could be a good singer or dancer. You might also be good at writing your own music. You might also be an actress, or you might enjoy acting or the theater. I see that you are someone who you're very happy and talkative. You could be an extrovert, but even if you are an introvert, I think you enjoy social gatherings a lot. I think you enjoy to talk to new people, but maybe mostly one-on-one. I think you are the feeling type. I think you might have a tendency to base your opinions on your emotions rather than facts. Like you might be the type who, if you took part in a conversation about like immigrants, you would ask people how they would feel personally if they stood face to face with a child by the border. Would they be able to coldly refuse that child access to the country? And so, like, if they looked them in the eyes, and so you might use arguments that speak to people's emotions, and so you might not be the type who is easily manipulated by statistics. You form your opinions in your heart and your gut. Also, I think other people's emotions fascinate you, and I think that might also be the reason you like the theater. You are probably someone who's really fascinated by people's reactions and analyzing people's reactions. You might also be good in advertising and sales, because I think you have a talent to appeal to people's emotions. You know how to sell people things because you know how to sell the feeling. You know how to provoke a feeling in other people, and you know that the feeling that you provoke will result in sale. And this also goes for your arguments in discussions and debates. You know that you can win any argument by provoking a feeling in your opponent, and you know that once you've created this feeling, your opponent will likely change their mind. And also for some of you, you could be interested in gender studies. You could also be in the LGBTQ community, but I see that you could be gender fluid. You probably believe that gender is a social construction, and so you probably don't identify with your own gender, but you don't identify with the opposite gender either. So I see that for some of you, you might struggle with anxiety, but let's draw some cards. So with the Two of Swords here, I think you have a tendency to compromise a bit. You might also sacrifice yourself a bit. You might be the type who likes to seek harmony and peace, so you might be a bit afraid of confrontations. You might be afraid of rocking the boat, and I think it's because you are so compassionate. You can probably sense other people's feelings. You could be clairsentient or clairsent. Yeah, you have so much empathy for others, and you want to understand people's actions. You want to dig deep into the matter and find the source of it, like, because you don't believe people are cruel and evil for no reason, and so you are very curious to understand their reasons and understand people's reactions, why people act the way they act, why people say mean things. And so whenever someone does something hurtful and mean to you, you kill them with kindness in a way. You try to understand them instead of stooping to their level. And so in proving that people are not as bad as they seem, you might be forgetting to stick up for yourself. You might forget to defend yourself, and even though it is actually the most beautiful sign of a high self-esteem, really, when you don't let insults get to you and actually feel sorry for the person insulting you, because you know that the person insulting you is the one with the issue, so and not you. But when toxic people see this trait, when they see a person not sticking up for themselves, not defending themselves, they see an opportunity to prey on you with the Devil card here. So you might attract some toxic people, some what's it called? I don't remember, but toxic people might attach themselves to you and manipulate you and steal your light. Like, and energy vampires, or like psychic vampires, like, so you might be someone who is a bit prone to people taking advantage of you. With the Seven of Staffs here, which is Seven of Wands, you could be a bit passive, not necessarily passive aggressive, although you could seem that way to others when you don't react when people assault you. But I think this more has to do with being passive. I think you might never act, you might only react, like with the two of Swords here as well. You don't confront people. You could also have a bit of a fear of reaching out to people or starting a conversation with people. Like you don't act, you don't walk over to a person and start a conversation, but you are really social when people walk over to you and start a conversation with you. Then you are probably really talkative, but you are a bit afraid of taking the first step. You're and the first move, especially towards new people. But I also see that you could have a bit of a fear of offending people. You might be a bit too politically correct, but you could also be someone who is not easily offended, but you get easily offended on other people's behalf. Like, you might be the type who always argues other people's causes. You might fight for people if you see that they get mistreated by others. You step in and fight for that person, and you're not afraid of confronting people if it is on other people's behalf. But I see that you wouldn't confront people on your own behalf, and so maybe that's something you need to work a bit with. You might be the type who only, and this might actually be considered a bit passive aggressive, but you might only defend yourself when others confront you with something. Like if someone gets offended about something you said to them, you might have a whole list memorized in your head of all the bad things they have said in the past, and so you might be the type who doesn't really mind that much when people say something offensive to you, but you still write it down on a post-it note in your mind, just in case someone should confront you in the future. And so people might consider this a bit passive aggressive, but I actually don't think it is, because I think you genuinely don't mind that much when people say bad things to you, because you can sense their emotions. You know that the remarks had more to do with them than you. So that's what I see for you, group number 1. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 2. You chose this Labradorite, and I will start by channeling a message, and then I will proceed to the cards. And so I see that you are very intuitive and smart. You could be a student. For some reason, I see that when you grew up, like you grew up in a home without books. Maybe you had parents who were really down to earth and logical, and maybe they had books, but only like non-fiction books, because they might not have been very imaginative. Like, your parents could have had very physical jobs, and even if they had received higher education, it would probably have been in more logical fields like mathematics, engineering, or something like that. So I think you might have been the complete opposite. You might have been really imaginative, and you might have loved fantasy books. And so I think you maybe grew up with parents that didn't really understand your interests and like your basic need for fiction books. They might also have been more focused when you were a child on like toys and books that educated you rather than built your imagination. And so I think you felt a bit deprived from inspiration growing up. So I see that you are really smart. You probably have a high IQ, but your imagination is actually your best asset. It is what makes you very compassionate and empathetic. And I think if you are not already a teacher, you should really consider becoming one, because I see that you are extremely good at empathizing with people. You can imagine people's struggles and you know how to help them. You could also be a really good counselor, but you could also use your creativity yourself, like create something for yourself, like a book, for example. I think you are someone who I think you really like to talk a lot. I think if you talk about a subject you are really passionate about, it is not easy to shut you up, but you might have a tendency to get so excited and so wired up that your thoughts become faster than your words. And so sometimes you can have a tendency to become a bit well, you might lose a lot of people, or a few people on like, because they can't really keep up with you. But I see that you are the type who needs to talk things through to like get them organized in your brain, because I see that you might have a bit of a chaotic brain, and sometimes you need to hear your thoughts out loud to really understand them. You might also be someone who talks their feelings, like you might not really understand your own feelings before you describe them to someone else. And so I think you would really benefit from writing a book or a diary or something like that, because I think you might not actually might not necessarily need another person to talk to. You just need to ascribe a word to the feeling you are feeling to like fully understand it. And you might also be really good with words, and so I really think you should write more. You might even have had a dream to become a writer since you were a child, but you might not have started that dream yet, and maybe that's because you have a bit of ADD, and maybe you haven't really found the concentration to really start a project like that. But I see that you are very, very curious and very creative and unique. You are also really good at visualizing. Like, I think that is something you are good at in writing. Like, you are good at creating a world in your mind and then describe it on paper. I get a bit of a Leo vibe from you, but let's draw some cards. So with the Hanged Man, I think you are someone who can see things from a different perspective. You might have a bit of a unique perception of life and the world around you. You might also have a really original take on things, but you might also be a bit of a procrastinator, and with the 8 of Pentacles, there's numbers here, so you might be good at numbers, but mostly I see that you are good at researching, and I think you are a good student. Learning might come really easy to you. Also with the 2 of Cups reversed, I think you are someone you have a lot of self-love, and that's really great, a really great quality to have, because if you can't love yourself, you can't love others, and so I think you have love and compassion for others because you have it for yourself as well. And I think you are one of those great people who are just completely being their authentic self. You don't pretend to be someone you're not. You are just in complete peace with your own self. You don't need to overestimate or underestimate yourself. And I think that is why you would become such a great teacher, because you are so much in alignment with your true self, and so you have the courage to teach others because you are not afraid of making mistakes. You are not afraid of admitting faults and mistakes and shortcomings. If a student would ask you a question and you didn't know the answer to it, you would have no problem telling the student that you don't know, and that you will have to do some research, and that you can answer the question next time you see the student. But right now you don't have the answer, and you don't feel any shame in admitting that, because you see yourself truly like other people see you. You are completely in harmony with yourself, and you're true to yourself, and you are true to others. So like you are just a very genuine person and honest person, and like the worst thing someone could say about you is probably that you're fake. Like that's probably the biggest insult you would hear in your life, like if someone said that to you, because it's so important for you to stay honest and genuine, and you don't want to be fake. You don't want to pretend to be something you're not, because that's just not your personality. That's not who you are. And so with the death card here, I see that you are really adaptable, but I also see that you could be a bit of a morbid soul. You might be a bit attracted to the dark. Maybe you even have a bit of an interest for the occult, or like if you enjoy reading the Bible, you probably like the Old Testament the most, because there's a lot of action there, and drama there, and so maybe you like it when like the more the darker bits of books, like and you might also have been a bit fixated on death since you were young. You could also have a bit of a dark sense of humor, but that's what I see for you, group number 2. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Group number 3, you chose this murky marble, and so I will start by channeling a message, and then I will draw the cards later. So the first thing I see about you is that you are really kind and helpful. I think you are really selfless and self-sacrificing. You love to help people, and you expect nothing in return. Or well, that's not completely true. I think you want a bit of gratitude from people. Like you don't want people to like you don't want people to help you back, but you want confirmation from others that you are kind and giving, and that is very understandable. I think we all want acknowledgement for our good deeds, and there's nothing more devastating than doing something good for someone and it goes unnoticed. But I always, like my grandfather used to say that we should always do everything we can for others, and and we should expect nothing in return. We should just be happy if people don't curse us for our good deeds. And well, that's a horrible thing to say, but and I don't know why I shared that, but I think it is. You're doing something great. But I also see that sometimes you might help people only for the confirmation or validation that you're good enough. And I think you should start to realize that you are good enough as you are, and that you don't need validation from others to know that you are good enough. You should stop feeling like you need to win people over, that you need to do a lot of things to make people like you, because if people don't like you, you shouldn't like them. And why would you want people to like you that you don't like? But I see that you are this caring, compassionate, motherly person who is really good at comforting others. But I see that for some of you, no one is comforting you, and maybe for some of you, you turn to food for comfort, like you comfort others, and in return, food comforts you. And for some of you, I don't actually see that you don't have people around you who would comfort you. I just don't think you want people to comfort you, and you might also have this vibe to you that others pick up on, that you don't need people's help, and so people are afraid to help you because or they see you as this strong person who doesn't need any help, and so they don't really ask you if you need anything, because they see you as someone who has everything. You have everything under control, and and also I think you have this self-image where it doesn't really fit if you get help from others, because I see that you see yourself also as this selfless person who always helps others, and I think it would be embarrassing for you to seek help because you don't want to be perceived as weak. And maybe you were raised by an egotistical or even narcissistic parent who praised you every time you sacrificed yourself for them. And so maybe you have learned that it is embarrassing and weak to voice your needs to others, and that is because one or both of your parents didn't want to tend to your needs, and so they made you believe it was bad to demand anything from others, and that's mostly them, like, and you were probably encouraged to help your parents and do whatever they asked you to do, and this was considered good behavior, and this was praised. And so you have this idea that whenever you ask someone to do something for you, and even if you do something for you yourself, this is egotistical and bad. And so maybe you like, for some of you, I see you might have weight issues. I don't know why I talk about weight in almost all the videos I make. I don't know why that is, but I see that I see that you don't like to eat in front of people, and like you find it embarrassing, like you are doing something wrong, like because you feel like you don't want people to see you fulfill your own needs, and that's a really basic need, but you feel like even fulfilling your basic need is a bit is something you consider indulging, and so you are afraid of you don't like to eat in public, and so you might be someone who only eats when other people don't see you, and so that can result in you eating too much and eating too little, and so you might have some weight issues, but I see that the issue is actually that you are afraid that people see you taking care of yourself, because for you that seems egotistical, and it's really not, and you know that probably, but you have this feeling because you lived in an environment where that where you were being told that everything you did for yourself was egotistical, and that you should be doing something for others all the time, and so also you might do other things that when people don't see, like you might be the type who doesn't like to shop in a physical store because you are afraid that people see you spending money on yourself, and so you might be the type who buys your clothes online, and so you might also be afraid of people seeing you have fun. So you might hate to you might not like to dance, and you probably had some incidences when you were a child where you had a moment of fun and it was instantly taken away from you by one of your parents, who made you feel embarrassed for having fun, and your parent might have told you that you should have been doing something else and shaming you into feeling regretful for the fun you had. But it is actually quite likely that your parent actually made up that urgent thing you should have been doing on the spot because they didn't want you to have fun, probably because they didn't have fun themselves, and so if they were not having fun, they didn't want you to experience it either. Like your parent probably wanted you to feel sad whenever they felt sad. So this could also have been a sibling. And so I think you are afraid of having fun, you are afraid of letting loose, because you are afraid that it will be taken away from you, that there will come something up that will make you feel embarrassed and regretful that you had fun. And that is characteristic for people who have dealt with narcissistic people. Like you could have, for example, had an episode when you were a child or early teenager where you, like maybe where you were at a sleepover at your friend's house, and then you were called home by your parents and told that there had happened something terrible at home, and I don't know what that could have been, but when you came home, your narcissistic parent probably made you feel bad for having fun while this terrible thing was happening at home. Like he or she might have said something like, "Where were you? You were just at your friend's house having fun while all this was going on, and I hope it was worth it." Like something like that. And really, you had done nothing wrong, and you really had no clue that what was even happening at home. And so you probably don't want to have fun because you feel like there is always this unknown thing that can ruin it and make you regret it. And it's not fair, because no one should let the unknown hinder them from doing something. Like you shouldn't stop having fun just because maybe something terrible is happening elsewhere. But you have been told that this is how it works, that but the unknown is unknown. You can't know things you don't know. But you just had a toxic parent who convinced you that you should be able to predict the future. You should be able to sense when someone in your family is in trouble or feeling bad. You should be able to know things you don't know, and that's just unfair, because you don't know what you don't know. So you just walk around with your antennas out, waiting, not daring to do anything for yourself, because if you can, like, you can dodge. You have learned how to dodge this bullet, because you know that you can't know the things you don't know. But a way to, like, hinder your narcissistic parent from blaming you and shaming you is to actually always helping others and never doing anything egotistical, never doing anything for yourself, because then you can't be blamed for being, well, egotistical, because you were doing something fun for yourself while something bad was happening elsewhere. And so you have formed your whole life and your whole personality on this like when you don't do anything for yourself, when then you won't be accused of just thinking only about yourself. And it's so silly and ironic, because the problem was never that you only thought about yourself. The problem was that your narcissistic parent only thought about themselves, and so you were raised to put others' needs before your own, and you were raised to not expect anything in return. And so I think you are pretty much reenacting your childhood with people that you meet in your life today. You try to help them and be there for them in the hopes that you will get praise and acknowledgement, because that is actually what you've been lacking the most in your childhood. And it is sad to learn as a child to put other people's need before your own. But what is even more sad is to not get acknowledgement for it, and even being criticized all the time for not doing enough. And so I think you hope that the people around you actually acknowledge you, and I really sympathize with you, because I really hope you will have a good experience where someone actually praises you, because I don't think your help actually goes unnoticed. I just don't think you have chosen the best people to help, because I don't think they are good at voicing their gratitude. But let's draw some cards for you. See that with the sun here, I think you are most definitely a light worker and a healer. In one of my other decks, this is actually, you can see that, and it's also a bit in this, but it's like the sun is absorbing the teardrops, and I think you're really good at comforting people. Also with the Ace of Cups, you are really loving and caring and motherly. With the Emperor, I think you might be blocking your emotions. You are not dealing with some of the trauma from your past. I also see that if your narcissistic parent was your mother, I think you might have become a bit of an emperor for her, like a husband for her, like you became the head of the household, the person who had to organize everything for your mother, help her with things. You might even have had to call the doctor to make appointments for your mother. So like you might have had to grow up really fast. With the Three of Swords here in reverse, I think you are someone who can help people overcome their heartache. So you could be a good therapist. And with the Nine of Wands, you are a bit guarded. You can be a bit closed off. Like I said before, you help others, but you don't want people to help you. And you might also be this way with love, like in relationship. In relationship, you are able to give love, but you are not able to receive it. And because in order for you to receive love, you need to let others fulfill your needs, and I think that is really scary and hard for you. I also see that you could perform really well under pressure. You might be someone who can think on their feet, and so you could also be a nurse or a caretaker of some sort, or you would be really good in that field. So, but that's what I see for you, group number 3. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Number 4, you chose this tanzanite, and so I will start by channeling a message, and then I will draw some cards for you. But so I see that you could be a mix of extrovert and introvert. Like you might have been an extrovert as a child, but then you have become quite introverted with time. This might also have happened because of something tough that happened in your childhood, like maybe you were bullied and this made you turn inwards. You might also have started daydreaming a lot as a child at some point to like escape your surroundings, and so I think you became very comfortable with the world that you had created on the inside, that you kind of moved in there for a while, and I think you had a period where you were really closed off in your childhood, and I think this might have stood a bit in contrast to how you were before, because I think you were this outgoing person before. You probably even wanted to be an actor as a child, and you wanted to perform in front of people, but then you just became very shy all of a sudden, and this probably was because of social anxiety and probably because of bullying. You could also have been a child who was really shy in school and really outgoing at home, and so you might have a bit of a doubled personality. You could be a Gemini, but I think you have this side to you where you are really social and talkative, but it is suppressed by this shy side of you. And so I think you might have actually walked around for a very long time thinking that you were actually this introverted person, and that's the way that's your nature, that's your personality. But I think you are starting to realize that you have defined yourself on something that wasn't actually your personality, but your fears, and you have let your fears form your personality. So you might have recently realized that you are actually more extroverted than you thought you were. That you actually don't get a lot of energy by yourself. You might not even enjoy being by yourself that much. You want to go out. You want to be social. You want to meet new people, and so I think you are in the middle of a bit of an identity crisis right now, where you are realizing that you thought that what you thought were a personality trait of yours might actually not have been, and so you might have to have had to redefine yourself and who you are socially. And so I think for some of you, bullying started in school, and it wasn't necessarily the children. It could have actually been the teachers who were the worst. And I think you might have had a hard time learning, but I actually don't think it was because you weren't capable. I just think you were ill prepared. I think your parents might have been a bit neglective and inattentive, and so I think you didn't have the best odds when you started school. Maybe your parents didn't do much to prepare you for school, and that is not a crime, because we're not really supposed to prepare our kids before they start in school. We don't need to teach them how to read and write, but still many parents do that. And so this results in the fact that not everyone starts school equally. Some parents let their children play and have fun right until the day they start in school, and some parents teach their children the whole curriculum before they even start school. And so it is really unfair, and I think you have been one of the unfortunate ones who wasn't overly prepared. I really hate this system, because there will always be parents who want the children to be perceived as wunderkinds, and the same parents complain about their children being bored in class. And well, your child wouldn't have been bored if you hadn't learned everything beforehand. You have created this problem yourself, but oh well. So you probably had to compete with those children, and you could even have been 10 times smarter than them and still be losing the battle, because it doesn't matter how smart you actually are if you don't know the things you need to know. And so I also see that when you started getting behind in school, your parents did not help you with your homework. They probably had some misconception that it was the child's responsibility and that it was the best thing to not help, because that would make you more independent or something like that. But that was a cop out, really, because really they were just a bit lazy and it didn't really feel like doing helping you with your homework work, and so you're still much alone with your problems. I see that you might have been able to ask your parents for help if you really needed help, but I see that you didn't really do that much, and I think that is because you always felt like you were killing the vibe by bringing up homework, that it would always be perceived very negatively by your parents, and so you stopped doing it because you didn't want to ruin the mood. And I also see that for some of you, you became a bit afraid of bringing up homework, so you might have waited a bit to build up courage enough to actually ask your parents for help, or maybe you always waited for the right time to ask for help, and when you eventually asked them, it was always too late, and then they would get mad at you for not bringing it up sooner, which resulted in you being even more afraid of bringing up your homework. And so I see that for some of you, you still have a bit of a blockage to this day. When it comes to homework, you still have really negative feelings towards it, and you probably procrastinate a lot. You might also have had many failures in school because of bad preparation, which was not at all your fault, but I think this has resulted in you being afraid of making mistakes. You are afraid of starting projects because you are afraid of them failing. You might also be quite you have a tendency to quit projects when you feel like they might fail. You might also be a bit indecisive. You might be afraid of taking the wrong, making the wrong decisions. And also, if your parents were like inattentive, they might not have seen you. You might have felt like you didn't know, that your parents didn't really know you. And when we grow up with parents who don't know us, it becomes really hard to know ourselves because we don't have our parents to tell us who we are, and it can then become really hard to form an identity. But let's draw some cards. With a chariot here, I think you might have moved a lot as a child, maybe even to another country, and so I think you might not have strong roots to one place, and I think that might also be the reason why you might have had a bit of an identity crisis, or you might have one right now. And I think with the Eight of Swords, this is confirmation that you actually are really afraid of making mistakes. You stand there completely paralyzed. The only thing you really need to do is like wiggle a little, and then the ropes will fall off. But you're afraid of wiggling, and because you don't dare to do that. So you accept defeat even before you even try. And of course, this is understandable if you had a really bad experience in school. But I also see that with the Fool here, there is this duality to your personality, because the Fool is the complete opposite of the Eight of Swords. He takes like risks without any worries and doubts, and I think you are essentially the Fool. You are essentially this person who is adventurous and curious and social, but you are held back by your anxious side. So you could be a Leo also. You could also be a Virgo with the Hermit here. But I also see with the Hermit that you are a bit isolated. You are really wise, and so I think that this period that you have had where you have been anxious to socialize has actually contributed a lot to you. You have learned much about yourself in this period. You are wiser from it, and it could also have been because of this shy period that you sought to spirituality, and so I don't think it has necessarily been a bad thing that you have been a bit isolated, but you should embrace this happy-go-lucky side of you. But that's what I see for you, group number 4. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 5. So you chose this Numite, and I will start by channeling a message for you, and then I will draw some cards. But so first of all, there's a very hard and dark energy with this group. Sorry to say that. It's the darkest group yet. I see a lot of self-harm. I see depression. I see addictions, alcohol abuse, substance abuse, personality disorders, eating disorders. So I'm really sorry for you that you had so much to struggle with in your life. This has without doubt not been easy for you. But I see that for some of you, this is something you have overcome, and you are probably a lot stronger now and than most other people, because you have overcome all this hardship in your life. So I see that for some of you, you could be students, but I also see that you might be considering changing your major or changing career path. I think for some of you, you recently realized that you have a calling in life, that there is something more suited for you, something you should rather be doing. And I think maybe that was something, maybe that has something to do with sharing your experiences and helping others that are struggling with like the same issues that you have been struggling with. For some of you, I see that you have a tendency to, and this is really normal for someone who has been through so much as you, and I see that you have a tendency to distance yourself a bit from people. You might seem a bit standoffish or even indifferent, like you don't care about people, but I think this is a defense mechanism. I don't think you allow people to come close because you are afraid that they will abandon you, and then it's just easier and safer to just not let them in the first place, because then they can't leave. Maybe you felt abandoned as a child, but I also see that for some of you, you have a tendency to fall in love with charity cases, like drug addicts, and I think you have a tendency to seek these love-hate relationships, and you might have family members and friends who always encourage you to end these relationships because they don't see what you see in them, but I think you actually connect with these people's shadow sides. This is the side you are actually attracted to, and the reason for that is that you have these sides yourself, and you are in a way mirroring yourself in your partner. You recognize something in them, something very familiar to you because you share it with them. You have the same issues as them, and so I don't know if you are guided, divinely guided towards these people because you need to realize your own flaws, or if you want to fix these partners because, like, maybe you want to fix these partners because if you can fix them, that means there's hope for you. That means there's hope for you to fix yourself. But mostly I think you need to realize your issues, and so the spirit is guiding you towards, like a scarecrow, an exaggerated version of yourself, so that you will never set foot in that field again. And so maybe if you have an addiction right now, you seek towards people who have even worse addictions, because your subconscious mind wants your conscious mind to realize how bad it can get. And so you are probably seeking a tower moment, something that will change you. Maybe your issues are very hidden. Maybe you have always been good at hiding them, and maybe you have always been good at hiding them for yourself also. And so I think there might be something liberating by being with someone whose addictions or issues are obvious to the world, someone who doesn't hide it, maybe because they can't hide it anymore. But I also think you want your partners to return the favor, like you recognize their shadow sides because you have them yourself, and you want to be with someone who can recognize your shadow sides, who can notice your shadow sides. And because your issues were actually never really noticed by people by the people you were when you were growing up. Like maybe you kept it sort of a good secret, and maybe you have been able to fool everyone you know, but now you search for partners that you can't fool, that have issues like yours, in the hopes that they would be able to recognize them in you. But the worst part of it is that when you are really deep into a drug addiction, you don't really notice anything. So you might not really find what you're looking for in these partners. I think you would have much more luck going to a therapist or AA or something like that. Whatever your issues are, talk to like-minded people who are not heavily intoxicated or troubled mentally, because they will surely recognize your shadow sides more than the partners that you are attracted to. So you might feel a bit cursed because you always date guys who end up revealing to you that they have an addiction, and you might feel a bit like a magnet to them. And I don't think you are. I think you will stop being attracted to them as soon as you get help, as soon as you learn the lesson that the universe is trying to make. And I think afterwards you will attract more stable people. I see that for you. You could be a Pisces, or you might have a strong 12th house placement. You might be very into music. You might even be a musician. But let's draw some cards. With the healing card here, which is the strength card, I see. I think you have come a long way to where you are today. I think you have healed a lot from the past. Also, you might actually have chosen these bad partners because your father was a bit like that. Maybe your father had an addiction, and so maybe addiction is something you are used to, something you grew up with, something you've grown familiar to, and so I think it might seem even nostalgic to be with someone with an addiction, but I think you are on the way to healing from the past, and you have grown really strong because of your past. And with the 9 of stones here, I think you have sown the seeds for your future. You are reinventing yourself and your future, but you might also benefit from asking for help. Like you can see that this person is helping. Like they are helping each other, sowing these seeds, and like I think you could benefit from asking for help, like professional help, like someone who can help you reinvent yourself and your future. Someone, but also with the 5. So with the 5 of stones in this deck, this card means to give away some products for free in order to make profit later. And so sometimes you need to sacrifice something to earn a bigger profit later. And so maybe you work a bit for free right now. Maybe you are doing volunteer work, or maybe you have started a passion project that will not make you money right away, but it will eventually. Also, if this is volunteer work, actually be a sponsor in AA or something like that, where you help people who have had the same issues as you. Also with the 7 of arrows here, I think you might be someone who has a big interest for different cultures and religions. You might also be interested in the occult, but also like ancient civilizations, like with the, like, yeah, you can see it, and old text, like you could also love to read about alien theories, so that might be an interest of yours. But also with the power lodge of the pipes here, you might be really good at empowering others. You are supposed to lead others and guide them out of the darkness, and I think you are a light worker. You can shine light on people's shadow sides because you recognize them. So that's what I see for you, group number 5. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Group number 6, you chose this azurite, and so I will start by channeling a message for you, and then I will draw the cards later. And so I think you are a really intuitive. You might be really interested in symbols and analyzing symbols. I see you are you have a really great imagination, and you are very original. You might be good at making decisions as well, even though you might have a bit of a vague sense of where you're going and your life path, but you are very stubborn when it comes to the things you really don't want to do. And so you are good at deciding what you don't want, but you might not be that good at deciding what you actually do want. And so you might not be open for suggestions either. Like, I think you are the type who wants to do something, but as soon as someone actually asks you to do the same thing, like that you were actually wanting to do, you don't want to do it anymore because someone told you to do it. And so I think you don't like it when people tell you to do something. Like you become quite stubborn when people suggest something, even if it's a suggestion that you actually had thought of yourself. Like but I think you rely really much on your intuition, that you feel like all the suggestions from others are leading you astray, and that you can only really count on your own intuition to guide you. And so some people might perceive you as a bit arrogant because you don't take suggestions well. You might also have had some trouble in school because you are not good at following instructions. You move to the beat of your own drum, and you don't like to be told what to do. You are probably really independent, and you probably thrive in a job where you can be your own boss. I think you are really driven by inspiration, and I don't think you like to let inspiration go to waste. And inspiration can come at any hour of the day and at very inconvenient times. Like, you could be doing a school assignment, and then all of a sudden you get the idea for a poem or something like that, and then you have more loyalty towards the inspiration than the assignment, because you also know that the inspiration will lead you to far more interesting places than the assignment will. And that is true, because the assignment is assigned to 100 students, and probably more. Your inspiration is just meant for you. And so I think it's a great way to prioritize, really. But I also know that the school system doesn't agree with me on that. So you might have had some struggles in school because of this. But I also see that you are someone who's really open to the spirit world. You might receive messages, and I think you are guided all the time. You are constantly receiving ideas and inspiration from the divine, and you might even have asked your spirit guides for this. But I think this may create a bit too much of a dynamic environment even for you, and so maybe consider closing off a bit to the spirit world. Set healthy boundaries for the spirits, so that you sometimes can catch a break, because I see that you follow all your input religiously. You never let the spirits down, but you let people in the real world down by always obeying to the spirits. You throw away whatever you have in your hands if the spirits knock on your door. And I see that you don't mind this at all, because I can see that you have a lot of exciting projects going on because of it. But I also see that you sacrifice a lot of earthly things, and so I think you need to get grounded. I just you need to get grounded, so that you once in a while can focus on school assignments or work or even love. I also see that you don't actually finish many projects, because then you receive new inspiration, and when you receive new inspiration, you abandon the project you are currently working on. So to pursue this new idea. And so you might also have a bit of ADD. But you're really creative and you have a lot of great ideas. But I think you need to learn to live in the present. You are always having all these new ideas for what you want to do next, that you sometimes forget what you're doing now. And so all your ideas and dreams kind of go to waste, because as soon as they manifest, you are off to pursue a new idea. And so you never truly feel the joy of your accomplishments. You never have the moment of pride and appreciation for a job well done. And so you also don't get a moment to actually be grateful for what you have accomplished, and what your spirit guides actually have helped you accomplish. But let's draw some cards. So with the Queen of Wands here, I see that you are a bit spontaneous and impulsive, but you're full of exciting ideas and also spiritual ones. And so I definitely see that you could be spiritual and intuitive. And with the 9 of Swords reversed, when it's upright in the Rider-Waite, I always think of someone who stays at home because they are too anxious to go, someone who lets their mind stop them from pursuing what they actually want. And I think you are not that way at all. I don't think you let your anxiety hinder you from doing anything, really. But I think you might have anxiety afterwards, like in retrospect. Like you might think back on embarrassing things you did or said. Like if you've been at a party, like you don't have anxiety before you attend the party, but you get it afterwards when you think of all you said, and were I being too much at that moment, or did I say something stupid at that moment, or something like that. And so you could also have had anxiety earlier in your life, and that you have overcome. That could make sense with the Death card here, and also the Judgment here. Maybe you are someone who reinvents themselves once in a while, and that would make sense since you are so divinely guided. So you probably have had many tower moments throughout your life where you have risen like the phoenix from the ashes. You are probably also good at getting rid of things in your life that doesn't serve you, and that is because you are such a dynamic person. You don't become attached to things easily because you are very used to letting things go to make room for something new and exciting. And so with the 8 of Cups here, it says Lord of Abandoned Success, and I think that makes sense, really. I think you have a tendency to abandon things whenever you get a new idea. You might not be good at finishing your projects, and that is both your strength and your weakness. Like you have all these awesome creative ideas and you are good at setting them in motion. You just need to learn how to follow through with them. So that's what I see for you, group number 6. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye.